Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Legion Alpha video. This is going to be going over my impressions of the Demon Hunter class in Legion. So I'm going to be showing you their current abilities in the Alpha and giving you a rough idea of how they play and what I think about how they play. I'm going to start off with Fell Rush and Movement. So Fell Rush makes you dash forward and do damage to anything that you hit. It's got 2 charges on a 10-second cooldown, and you can use it when you're in mid-air as well, which pairs pretty damn well with your jumping ability. So you can double jump, and then pressing jump a 3rd time will spread your wings, allowing you to glide. What's very cool though is the glide can be toggled on and off as you fall. Since Fell Rush can be used in mid-air and you can glide, there's a lot of potential for you to get into very interesting places without having to actually use a flying mount, and all of this stuff is active indoors. So with that covered, let's go on to the combat. The primary resource is Fury. It is generated and spent by your abilities, and it's capped at 100. The main generator is Demon's Bite. Each use of this will generate between 20 and 30 Fury, and the Fury dump is Chaos Strike, which does heavier damage but costs 40 Fury. If it crits though, it's free. Currently much of your time is just spent spamming these 2 spells. Soon after that you unlock I-Beam. Basically your character flies up, shoots an I-Beam forward, which deals pretty massive damage over a few seconds. It absolutely shreds enemies actually, and it costs 50 Fury overall. It's a skill shot too, which is great. I love seeing them in the game. It's also got extremely high AoE damage. After that we get Consume Magic. It's on a 20-second cooldown and it has a 20-yard range. It's pretty simple, just an interrupt that interrupts an enemy's cast spell, locks them for 3 seconds, but it will fill your Fury bar completely if it successfully interrupts something. Next we have Glaive Throw, so you chuck a glaive out, and that does pretty decent damage. It will then hit up to 2 additional enemies within 10 yards, and overall it's got a 30-yard range, a 10-second cooldown, and costs no Fury. It actually really does look quite snazzy when you use it. And then finally, we have Metamorphosis. You leap into the air, go full demon mode, crash down, dealing big damage to people, and stunning enemies for 3 seconds. Then over the next 30 seconds, you get a new version of Demon's Bite and Chaos Strike, which are both far more potent. You do a truckload of damage. And finally we have Spectral Sight. It allows you to see enemies behind walls and also see anything that is stealthed. It's pretty damn cool, though I don't know how useful it's going to be in regular gameplay outside of a few niche things in a raid, or of course player versus player, where I imagine it's going to be quite powerful. Alright, so that's the core abilities covered. Next I'm going to go over their talents. Currently we know 2 full rows. So Fell Mastery is a row 1 talent that causes Fell Rush to do 50% more damage and give 25 Fury if it hits a target. This is pretty powerful, especially if you're planning on hopping all over the place. Blade Dance is another potential one for row 1. You hit enemies around you for heavy damage, and you also get 100% dodge for a second. It costs 50 Fury and has a 12-second cooldown. This one, it just looks extremely cool to use. It's very, very gratifying and cool ability. Next we have Blind Fury. This simply increases the duration of I-Beam by 50%, which just makes it do quite a bit more damage. Row 2 has actually got some pretty cool stuff. So, Prepared causes Vengeful Retreat to generate 96 Fury over 6 seconds. This, I assume, would make it a part of your rotation. Perhaps using Vengeful Retreat and then Fell Rushing back into the fight is going to be a tactic. Vengeful Retreat isn't in the beta yet, but essentially it's a disengage with an offensive element. The next row 2 one is Demon Blades. This is pretty cool, interesting anyway, in that it makes the APM requirement a lot lower. It removes Demon's Bite as an ability, and it basically means that your auto attacks are going to generate Fury and deal additional shadow damage. This will cause quite the change in that it's going to give you less buttons to hit overall. It probably won't do as much throughput as the other options though. Finally, Master of the Glaive will cause your Glaive Throw to deal 100% additional damage to enemies above 90 health, and its CD is reduced by 2 seconds for every damage, every bit of damage that it does to a target. So this is strange. That burst damage isn't going to be great for most of the fight, but if you're constantly having new ad packs, then it certainly will be quite nice. The reduced cooldown is pretty damn cool though, especially if you know that your Glaive Toss will hit a total of 3 targets, because hitting 3 targets would make its cooldown be reduced by 6 seconds, meaning you could use it every 4 seconds. That is a lot of Glaive Tosses going out. Oh, it's also worth mentioning Shattered Souls, which is their passive. So if you kill an enemy that grants experience or honor, then its soul will be dropped on the ground for 30 seconds. Walking into that soul fragment will give you 25% of your maximum health, and if it was the soul of a demon, you will do 20% additional damage for 15 seconds. It's certainly a very cool ability when you're leveling. It gives you great sustain. So with all of that stuff covered, right now the rotation is shaping up to be a priority system where you generate as much as you can and then spend it based on the abilities that do the most damage per fury that is spent. Some combos do interest me. For an example, Vengeful Retreat will be followed up by maybe a Talented Fell Rush to give you a massive burst of fury that you could use to dump loads of Chaos Strikes onto an enemy. It's also interesting to see that they're going for a passive talent in each tier. That makes the spec easier to play overall, with the largest example actually being Demon's Blades, which removes an entire button from your gameplay. Stuff like that likely won't be good for the numbers, but having an option is very good. It does 4% more DPS or whatever really matter if you're leveling or doing world content. To a regular player, I don't actually think so. Options like this should probably make classes and specs a lot more accessible from a base level, but then allow for more depth as people get to be a bit more familiar with the spec and then choose the talents that are more oriented around doing like proper raiding DPS. We don't have much in the way of talents for the other tiers though, so there's not really much speculation that can be done. What I can say though is that the look and feel is absolutely on point with this class. The animations are fantastic and that makes it very, very gratifying to play. The movement options give you a very satisfying mastery over your environment, and it just feels like getting from point A to point B in an efficient manner is almost a game in and of itself. It's extremely fun, especially when you're just rushing around from target to target, though I do have to wonder if that movement or those movement spells and abilities will make it into their core rotation, because having loads of dashing around the place as a part of a single target boss rotation would be a little bit strange. Still, from my early impressions, the Demon Hunter is looking like an extremely interesting class. It's only alpha, lots of stuff will change, and lots of stuff still needs to be revealed as we move forward into the beta. But that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.